Hi, Mike Clark here. Welcome to my channel. Before we get on with today's video, I'd just like to ask a favor from everyone. You'll notice that I don't put up any ads here. I'm not here to really try to make money off this channel. I feel that because I sell laser engraving equipment, it's sort of my duty to help people with different aspects of the laser equipment. However, a number of years ago I was diagnosed with cancer, and every year I do the Ride for Cancer. So what I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, if you feel that this channel has helped you out, maybe make a small donation to the Ride for Cancer. I'll also going to be offering some virtual training, and we'll do the same thing. Any training that's done, I'll get you to make a donation to the Ride for Cancer. For those that live in Canada, that you'll get a tax receipt for that. And once that's done, then we'll get on and do some training with you. Hope you have a good day, and thanks a lot. In today's video, we're going to take a look at how to use the Cutout Lab that's available in Corel PhotoPaint. Corel PhotoPaint is a sister program to Corel Draw, and it's available in the Corel Draw suite. So if you purchase Corel Draw, then typically you have access to PhotoPaint, and you'll have access to the Cutout Lab. It's been available in a number of versions of Corel. It used to be called Knockout when it was a separate program, and then Corel Draw purchased the program, sort of kept it going along a little bit as Knockout, and then they basically just integrated it into PhotoPaint. Again, I think it's a really important program. I think everyone should use it. Again, if you're using Photoshop, there is a way to do the same process, but I'm sitting here talking about Cutout Lab, so for those that are using the Corel Draw suite, then this is a video for you to watch. The main reason for using the Cutout Lab is normally when you're doing photographs, a lot of times it's better when you actually remove the background. I know we do photographs for a lot of different reasons, a lot of different applications, a lot of different events and things like that, but I know that we do a lot of photographs for, you know, for people that have died or pets that have died or anything like that, or you know, memorials or things like that. And really when we're doing those sort of things, we're trying to isolate the actual person that or animal that we're trying to recognize, or building or anything like that. We don't want any stray background or people in the photograph itself. So programs like Cutout Lab will remove the background for you relatively easily. It's not always perfect, but there are nice tools in there that will make it a lot easier for you to fine-tune the photograph so that you get rid of everything, or if you've lost a few things, you can bring them back. So we're going to take a look today at Cutout Lab. Again, I know I've done a few articles on this in the past, but I wanted to do an updated version for Cutout Lab for those of you, because I know photographs is a very popular thing, and I think it's really something that people need to look at. And I'll give you some examples as to why we use Cutout Lab on an image versus not using Cutout Lab on an image. And I think you'll see a big difference in terms of the final product. Anyways, let's get on with it. One of the most important things when we're dealing with photographs is that we need to make sure that the focus of that photograph is on the object, person that our customer wants everyone to see. And what I mean by that is that when you look at the photograph, where is your eye drawn? Is your eye drawn to the building in the background, or is your eye drawn to the person's that's sitting on the bench in the photograph, right? And typically what we want, if somebody is looking for us to reproduce a photograph of a person, say, they want that person to be front and center. So what we want to do is we want to remove other things in the photograph that may draw our eye away from that person that we want to make as the focal point of that photograph. Okay, so if you're looking at a photo like like this, where we have a lot of multiple focus points on here, because you could be looking at the elevator, you could be looking at one of the turtles, and again, your eye really isn't drawing to one spot in the photograph. Okay, it's sort of going here, it's looking there, and sometimes that might be what you want. I mean, you may be trying to capture an event that happened in the elevator, and therefore you need all 4 people there, and you need the elevator so people understand it's happening in an elevator. But a lot of times when we're doing these photographs, we're especially if you're doing a memorial photograph or something like that, you really don't want the background going on. You don't want the fact that that the person that you're doing the photograph, that their neighbors are in the background, or the kids are playing, or whatever. I mean, you just want to see them. So again, if you're doing a photograph like this, what we want to do here is it's very effective, in this type of on this type of product here, because we've removed a lot of the background. So really all you're seeing is just the person. Okay, and getting rid of that background is very important too, because what it does is it allows that person to their, in this case, bust, to jump out at you. Okay, and I'll show you an example, but if you try to laser engrave the background along with the head, sometimes the background will wash out the portrait. And again, this isn't very effective, because customers isn't going to be happy. You're not going to be happy with the results. So a lot of times it's very important that we get rid of that background and we create the focus point on the person that our customer wants to have shown in the photograph. So many times I've got photos from people that need some help, and a lot of problems with the photographs is that there's a lot of other stuff in that photo, where it be another person, a background, a car, or whatever. Sometimes it's not ideal when you get photographs. Your customer gets photographs because they might only have one of that particular person or event or whatever, and therefore they don't have a lot to go from. But it's very important for you, when you're talking to your customer, is to say to your customer, what are we trying to achieve here, right? Are we trying to get the whole photograph in here, or are we just sort of focusing in on one person? And sometimes during the conversation, if somebody's saying, well, this person died, we like to to put this on a locket or something, or on a plaque in a in a school or something like that. So again, you can probably go from the conversation that they just want the person, they don't want everything else that's there. But again, you never know, maybe they want the background, what's going on around, to them, is a reason to record everything. So again, it's an important question to ask, and it's important for us to make sure that when we produce the product, that is produced. And I can tell you right now, if you're getting rid of all that excess area or things that are going on in the background of the photograph, it will make your life a lot easier when you go to laser etch. I mean, I can go over to the sample board and show you a bunch of photos. I'll put them in here along so you can see them, and you can see that these photos are a lot more effective when they're just by themselves. Okay, again, maybe somebody's taking a photograph and you're maybe you're in a rose garden or something, and you want to portray that rose garden. So again, you want to include those there. But a lot of times, it's just a person that you're worried about. You're not worried about anything else. And that's really what Cutout Lab allows us to do, is to get rid of that so-called chaff, or that excess information that's in the photo, and then allows us to have when we produce the product, when somebody looks at it, their focus is on the actual person or pet or whatever that we've produced and put on that item. And again, that's ultimately what we want to do. And that will make your customer probably a lot happier. It'll make your life a lot easier. So that's why we use Cutout Lab. We need to create a good focus, and a lot of times Cutout Lab will allow us to isolate and get rid of all that excess focuses where maybe our eyes are looking all over the place, and keep it on the one main person or object that we want the customer or the people are looking at the finished product to see. Okay, we've got our image opened up here in Photo Paint. I'm going to do a couple of different images here, but let's start out with one that's relatively straightforward. Now this one's a little bit hard because I do have a blue background here with a blue dress, but it's relatively straightforward because it's really just blue in the background. So and again, you know, we go into the skin here versus the background. Normally the software can pick this up pretty quickly, especially the hair on the background. And this is why it's always easy when you're doing these types of portrait reproductions, because a lot of times, you know, the photographers put the backgrounds in here because, again, as we talk about, focus is very important. Okay, you look at this photo, the first thing you do is you go to my daughter's face. Okay, so again, that's what you want to have happen. You don't want to go to something that's in the background or whatever. What you want to see is the person. And it's photographers do this because, you know, then you buy photographs, because now you've got these great photos, you've got these, they're perfectly, you know, in this case here, the adjustment is great on them and everything, so you know, I really don't have to do too much to them. And I'm looking right at my daughter, and it's perfect, so my heart tugs away, and I order pictures from school. So let's take a look at how we get rid of the background. So the first thing you always do with a photograph that I like to do is I want to make the photo the size of what I want to produce it at. Okay, now this can be a little bit difficult because I'm going to remove some material out of here, but let's get it somewhere close to what we want to work with. Okay, so again, if you go into the image and then you go to the resample command, normally what you want, let's assume that I want to do this, the width is going to be, let's say the height is going to be 4 inches. And important, normally what I like to do is I like to get the resolution up. And this is very important on those files where you don't have a lot of like you've got to send me to DPI, and the photo's been relatively compressed when it's been saved. So when you do the adjustments don't work very well. Well, sometimes it's a lot better for us to use a higher resolution. So normally I'll pop in 300. I can always change this later on. You'll notice that the original file size was basically 1 meg. Now it's 3.42, but that's really not a big deal. You know, a lot of the computers nowadays will handle this out for you. So I'm going to say OK, and the image is where I want it to be. Let's get the image fit in the window here. Again, if you want to crop this down, you can do that before you send over. So for example, maybe I might want to just say, let's crop this down here, and then double click on that, and again we've got to crop down. Again, I'm not going to do that, but again, you could do that too if you want, and then resize it. Okay, so now that we've got our image resized, resampled, let's go in Image, Cutout Lab, and here's the Cutout Lab here. Now there's a number of tools in the Cutout Lab here that we're going to be using to do our cutout. So we'll periodically go through these as we're doing our image. So the first thing we want to do, normally what I do is I zoom in on an area. So I'm going to click the zoom tool here, and then I'm going to go in on an area. And again, if I get too close, I can always back up a little bit. I don't want to be too close. Again, it depends on how much detail you need to do. You've got a hand tool here, which you can activate with the H key, and that allows you to move around here. Okay, so I'm going to get the image sort of in the screen here. Now what I need to do is I need to use the highlighter tool. And what I'm going to do with the highlighter tool is I'm going to draw a line like this, and that line will be half on the image that I want and half off on the other part of the image that I don't want. Okay, and again I'm going to use the green tool or the green color here to show me what I've drawn, and the nib size indicates the size of what I've drawn here. Okay, so I'm going to back up here. I'm going to get rid of that. And again, if I want a larger nib size, I can always go to 200. And see the nib size is way too big. Or I can go back to, let's go back to 25. And you can see the nib's a bit smaller than what I had. So again, I'm going to draw something, and again, if you draw something and you accidentally go out of here, not a big deal. You can always come up to the erase tool and you can get rid of that if you want. Okay, I'll back off again here and get rid of that, and let's start right from scratch. So I'm going to click the highlighter tool and we're going to start drawing, and again, like I said, you don't have to be perfect on this. Again, there's going to be we're going to have the ability to bring stuff back or get rid of stuff if things are there that shouldn't be there. And like I said, I want to be half on, half off. Now, you don't want that line to be too big, because if it becomes too big, then what the green line is doing is actually assessing all the pixels that are in that area there, and then it's going to try to say, well, you know, all the brown pixels are on the left and all the blue pixels are on the right, so therefore, you know, when I cut it out, I'm going to get rid of the blue and I'm going to keep the brown. And again, if the line is too large, we may start assessing too many pixels, and it may not be able to do that calculation. Again, if we make it too small, then there may not be enough pixels there to be able to do the calculation again, just because there's not enough information. So again, I normally like to go a little bit bigger. I tend to find there's not too much where the thicker line versus thinner line really affects the final product, because every time I do this, I normally have to go in and use the add detail or remove detail tools anyways to get rid of stuff. So again, I'm down now to almost to the bottom of the screen. If I press the H button, again, you notice I get a hand here. I can move this around if I want, and we can just continue to draw here. So I select the highlighter tool, and down I come. And if you want, you could even make the image this line thinner if you wanted. So if you got into if you went from a really non-detailed area to a more detailed area, then you could make this line thinner for where you have more detail and you want a little bit more control of where that line is. So don't be afraid to experiment you know, with this tool. In this case here, because of the way the image is, this is going to work fine for what I need to do. Go back to the H. Let's bring this up. And again, if I press F5, then I've got the tools automatically there. So knowing the hotkeys really can help you out here. Again, H, and then I can keep moving, F5, down I come, and I'm at the bottom. And again, you want to get right to the bottom. You don't want to leave a gap here, because when you fill the inside, it'll fill up the whole screen, and we don't want that to happen. Again, just press the H, we can move over. I'm at the bottom. I'm going to press the F5, and then we're going to start to proceed this way. H, F5. And like I said, if that was a bit too thick, I could just come over here with and I could just fix that up if I felt it was a little bit too wide, and then go back here. Let's go to the H, bring this up a little bit, and then certainly, you know, having a tablet or something certainly makes this a lot easier, but what we're doing, this is good. So again, now if I zoom out to the total image here, now what I'm going to do is I need to fill the area. I need to tell the software what I want to say, what I want to keep, and what I don't want to keep. You notice that the preview button is grayed out because I haven't done that yet. So I need to go to the fill tool here, and that fill tool color is based on the color I pick here. In the case it's blue, for me it's fine. Again, sometimes you've got multiple selections on here. Sometimes it's nice to have a couple of different colors, but for the most part, this color is going to be fine. So I'm going to draw this in here, and it's the fill color that shows what I want to keep, and the non-filled area is what I want to get rid of. So again, I could just click the preview button, and again, you can see that I've gotten rid of most of the background. I've lost a little bit here, but again, we can go in and fix that up. And I'm just going to click the plus key here, and we'll zoom in on this area here, and I'm going to go to the add detail, because I want to bring this detail back. So again, I can use a different nib size if I want that bigger or smaller, and I'm just going to press up here. Okay? And you can see the detail coming back into the image. Now you may have a problem where you can't see, you want to see the original image because maybe there's a dark beside a dark, and so you can show the original image and you can kind of see in the background where the image was. Now the background was relatively like it was just a solid color, so it won't show up very good here, but you'll see when I do the next image, the show image will certainly help out. So again, I can get rid of that. The other thing that sometimes you might want to do is basically come in and just sort of show your background maybe as grayscale. And again, you can see that there's a little bit of extra information going on here that we've got to get rid of. Okay, and again, I can do that now with the remove detail tool. And again, that's just going to go in and get rid of what I don't want to keep. And again, if this gets really, if you need to be fine tuning, you can zoom right in here if you want, and then get rid of that, whatever you don't want. And again, I tend to find that there's always there's always this little bit of, I keep saying chaff, but I mean chaff is a little bit of that extra detail in the background that you really need to get rid of. It doesn't seem to get rid of everything. So again, it's always good to put this gray background on here so you can see it. Again, you could use black if you want, or again, you could use white, whatever makes it easier. I typically like to use gray, but it really depends on the person. And again, so again, if I want to bring detail back, I can just check in here. You can see that everything is here. And again, if I press the H here, I could come across, and let's get rid of that detail there. And if I want to check to make sure that you can see that it's a little bit off. Not a big deal. I wouldn't see that too much. Again, I can just click on the scroll bar here if I want. I don't want to use the tool here. And again, that's pretty good there. And again, if I want to bring the detail in. So, pretty good here. If you happen to do that, you can always go back here. Just remember that anything that you did with your mouse button closed, if I click this, I'm going to lose it. So again, be careful that you do this. So sometimes it's better to do small clicks. So click, click, because if I do happen to do one of these and I hit the undo, it's only doing that last step. It didn't do the other two before it, right? So again, just be careful when you're doing that. And again, you might want to get rid of this right here. This might, it's a couple of wisps of hair. You're never going to see that anyways. H down. And we could zoom out a bit if we want. And again, if we go over here, you can see there's a little bit of extra background left here. So let's get rid of that. And we're going to get rid of that D right there. Let's just zoom in here to make sure we've got a good, that's pretty good there. Like I said, if you want to get down to like 5, if you really want to get into the corner there, then
you could see how that becomes a lot smaller and gives me a little bit more ability to fine-tune, you know, what I need to do in terms of adding or removing detail. So you can see a little bit of excess out here. Let's get rid of that. Don't really need that piece of hair. That's not really going to do much for it. Remember, a lot of times, you know, it's going on wood or things like that in acrylic, and they're not going to see that small piece of hair or whatever there. So let's go back out to our finished image, and there we go. We've now got the background basically isolated for our image. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this and say none, and you'll notice that we've got, when I get rid of the background here, you notice that what we've got here is we've got a checkerboarded background on here. This is very important because this tells the software that that's a transparent background. And if I had to put this image on, say, black granite, where the background is going to be lighter than the base color, I need to invert the image. And the problem is, if with the transparent background, when I do the invert, it doesn't turn from white to black. It stays clear, which is what you want it to do. So again, very important that we keep the transparent background there, and then basically all I need to do is say OK, and then off I go. Again, you could click the reset button here if you didn't want to if you wanted to start all over again. Again, we have the ability to clip masks and things like that, which again I'm not going to get into today. And then you can just say OK, and then out we go. Okay, and you can see that basically now the background is totally gone. Now this is a perfect example of getting the background removed, and now I don't have to worry about any of that background laser etching when I actually do the job. As I mentioned, don't get rid of the transparent background. Again, if you're going to put this over to the laser machine, then I normally will just do my adjustments here and then get it over to Corel if I want, or sometimes I'll even just send it from PhotoPaint. But again, let's take a look at a different image. Just remember that if you're going to send this over to Corel Draw, then what we want to do is we want to file Save As, and we want to save this as a Corel PhotoPaint file. CPT, do not save this as a JPEG. It'll flatten the background, which again is fine if you're putting this on wood, but again, if you wanted to invert the image, then the white background would become black. So again, leave it as a CPT all the time. If it's transparent, it'll just turn white. If it's in Corel, and again, if you invert it, then basically the background will be saved. So again, I've saved this here. I've saved it already. So let's cancel. If I go into Corel, okay, let's go File, New, and so let's go File, Import, and with pictures where that was, and there's the image. So, and you notice here that the background is gone, and here's the original image, and here's the cutout image. So again, you can see that I've got the transparent background now, and if I come in here and I invert this, then basically under, let's go here to, where are we here? Tool, Effects, sorry. Transform, invert. You notice that the background stays white, which again we would want if we were going to put it on anodized aluminum, where everything is going to go black. Again, I would convert this to grayscale and do my conversions, but again, you can see that the background, because it's transparent, it works. Very important to make sure that you keep that transparency in the photo, and that transparency is kept there because I saved it as a CPT file. Okay, don't save it as a JPEG or export as a JPEG. So let's bring another image in here just to do a different one with a little bit of more of a background in it that will give us a little bit more issues when we try to cut out. So let's go in here and let's open up that photo. So let's open up downloads. Okay, here's one here. So again, here's a classic one here. Now this is a good example of asking the customer, what do you want to keep? Do you want to keep just the head, or do you want to keep the body? I'll do the body here just so we have a little bit more of a tutorial here. But sometimes people might just want to keep this part of the dog as opposed to everything. But let's take a look at cutting the whole thing out. So again, normally what I would normally do in this case here, again, as I mentioned before, we want to get the image to the proper size. So let's cut down the image to something that's what we want to work with. So let's assume this is what we want to work with. Double click, and then we'll go to the image, go to resample, and again, this is pretty big, 44 inches. I don't want it that big, so you can see the file size is relatively big. So let's get it down to a 4-inch width, and let's get it to a 300 dpi. Whoops. And you can see the new size is 3.3, so it's a lot smaller, which is good. And I've got more working size, because again, if it's 44, then you don't want to start resizing it after the fact. Better to do it now. Makes the program run a lot better because the file size is smaller, and I'm not having issues with degradation of the image if I'm trying to take it from 44 down to 4. Again, normally you want to do this right at the beginning, so it's always very important to when you're doing a photo is to know where you're going to put this on so that you can have the appropriate size, okay? Because you don't want to do this after the fact, okay? So got our image here, so let's go to Cutout Lab, and there's our image. Okay, so again, we're just going to zoom in on an area. Oops. Our zoom tool here, and let's get down to start here, and let's go to our nib size. Nib size may be a little bit too small, so let's get that up to say 40, and we're just going to start tracing out here. Now again, you got a bit of fizzies here. I would try to stay more on the solid, and we could make this a bit bigger if we want to try to capture the fizzies, but I don't think you really need to here. I'm not going to worry too much again about the ear. If I lose some detail, I can always bring it back in again. Okay. Press the H. I'm right at the edge of the photo, so I'm going to stop there. And again, the question is, do we want to capture this? Sure. Like I said, I don't get too worked up anymore about this line thickness. It just, if I got to go in and add a bit of detail, so be it. Whoops. Again, we can back up there. And you're right at the bottom. Okay, so you can see that I've basically done my outline border here, and then we're going to basically come in and fill this. Click on the inside. That's going to be kept. The other part's going to be getting rid of. Let's preview this. And you can see that it's done a pretty good job. Okay. So again, let's just zoom in on an area here. And like I said, if you want to see the original image, you can see the original image here, and you can say, oh, okay, well, that's part of the couch there. So let's get rid of that detail there. And it's gone. And if we didn't want that, we could always just go to grayscale matte. And again, you can see that there's a little bit of stuff here that we don't want, so let's like I said, we would never be able to reproduce that fuzz on the edge of the dog anyway, so there's no sense really trying to keep it. Again, we've got a little bit of it there, so that's perfectly adequate. And again, I just want to make sure I've gotten rid of all the little pieces of gray that are around the outside. And we can zoom around here like so. And again, looks like we've lost a little bit of detail here, but again, we can bring that back. You probably would never notice that anyways, but and you see we're at the bottom here, so let's just get rid of what's at the bottom. So again, I'm not going to go undo. I can just come back in and re-bring that back in again, just so you can see that it can be done. Again, it's not too critical here because this is going to look like hair anyway, so, but I'll put that in there. And then we'll move this across. Okay, so there we've got kind of rid of the, let's just go over here and let's get rid of, bring our detail back that we want. Again, like I said, if you wanted to bring in the, I could leave it green, show the image here, but I normally just get rid of it, make it none. But again, you can kind of see where the head is here. And we're going to bring the detail back. Dark. And really, like I said, all I'm doing here is just tracing out. And again, if we get rid of that, we show the grayscale, you can see I've got some extra on here that I want to get rid of. I'm not trying to be super close, but that should be good. Like I said, a lot of times this stuff just, you'd never see it anyways, but it's always good just to practice with it. Bring back what I cut over there. H. So again, maybe bring the original image in. That looks like just extra color that shouldn't be there. Whoops. H. And you can see that I've lost part of the leg here, so but I can see that in the image, so I'm going to bring that back. And the gray shows me I got a little bit. The gray shows me I got a little bit of background here, which we can get rid of. And if we zoom back out again, you can see that I've got a pretty good representation now. It's pretty clean around the edges, which is good. And I'm ready to go. So again, I can just say OK. And there's my image. Again, that's looking pretty good. Like I said, I want to leave that background in the transparency. Okay, because if I want to invert it, then it will invert for me, right? So again, that's what we want to do. Again, if we go up to, I don't remember where this is on here, image, oops. Colors. So again, because we have the transparent background, if I invert it, then basically we don't lose the background. So again, what you want to do here is what I would normally do with this if I was going to send it to Corel, then I would typically come in, I would convert that to grayscale. Do not flatten. You want to keep the, do you want to flatten? You say no, because I want to keep the background white or transparent. And again, I'm going to do my adjustment here. Maybe we're going to back off from the red a little bit, or maybe increase it. There's our image there. And then again, typically what we do is maybe you go in and use the adjustment, use a tonal curve maybe on the image. Again, a lot of black in this image here. You can see all the density pixels over here. So again, this typically is something maybe we want to bring this up a little bit. And let's just trying to flatten that curve out a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to go into effects. We're going to do the sharpen. Sharp mask. There we go. It's pretty dramatic, but again, that really will depend on what you're putting it on, right? But let's assume that's what we want. Let me back that off a little bit. Okay. Again, if I'm just putting this on anodized aluminum, then I would go in and I would invert my image. Again, you can see it's still inverted and everything like that, so that works quite well. Normally, if I'm going to put this on black anodized aluminum, I would normally invert before I did my corrections, but that's not a big deal. And then again, if you wanted to be putting this on wood, then you would go to, again, we don't well, we could flatten if we're going to put it on wood. We could say, sure, I'm going to say no, and then basically I'm going to go to say we want to go Jarvis. And again, we've got our adjustments here, depending on how much we want to do. Again, it's pretty dramatic there. Let's assume that's what we want right there. And then I can send that over to Corel. Again, and again, I would save this as photo paint. And then I would just import it into Corel and then send it to Laser. You could, if you were just doing this one, you could send it right over to the Laser machine right from Photo Paint, and just print it and then work with it there. But again, that just really depends on your flow and how you want to work with it. But that's basically how you're going to use the Photo Paint or the Cutout Lab in Photo Paint.